Hey guys, welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Before I get into today's guest, if you guys can please like, subscribe, leave a review, it helps out a ton with the podcast and also the people that are coming on the show. So today's guest is Alexandra Marshall. She is the president of SEO.com. It's great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Max. I'm excited to be here and to chat with you and your audience about all things digital marketing.
Awesome. Nate. I'm very excited too. So, so why don't we jump off for people that maybe, haven't come across any of your LinkedIn content or SEO.com, let's start from the beginning. Like, where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? And what was your first passion?
Awesome. So I have I would say it's an unorthodox background. I'm not from one place in particular. I grew up between England and Texas, and then into my adulthood, I started traveling around the Southwest. And most recently, I found myself in Vancouver, Canada. So I like to tell people I'm from all over the world. And so really, I started my career in marketing by chance. I hadn't gone to university for marketing. So it just happened I was in the right place at the right time and willing to apply myself. I was at a hiring event, and there was this unique opportunity for Whole Foods to hire someone in marketing and administration. And the prerequisite was like, you have to know about healthy eating. So it wasn't, it was a really good opportunity for me to just jump into marketing without too much experience beforehand. My passion, though, is with gemology. I originally wanted to be an archaeologist. Then I found myself in marketing, and as a hobby, I've started doing gemology because it's kind of like archaeology, what I wanted to do as a kid.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay, cool. So yeah, you got that first opportunity at Whole Foods, and that sort of sparked it for you. And from there on, did you sort of start to fall like in love with it, or like what sort of happened in that beginning journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I did find marketing to become one of my passions because it kind of combines creative aspects or creative skills with I guess strategy, and it's really fun to be able to come up with ideas, implement them, and then see the results and measure. So you get to use both your left and your right side of your brain.
Okay, awesome. And to talk about that in more detail, after you spent, 6 months, 12 months in the industry, how did you sort of find that? Was there like a huge learning curve for you, or, did it sort of just feel natural and you just really enjoyed like learning about the industry and learning what you could do with like marketing for the company you were working with?
Well, so with Whole Foods, it was a little unique because it's more in-store, like in-person marketing. So we were doing event marketing, and it was just very different from what I do today. And where I really found my passion is after Whole Foods, I started managing a consulting group, and I started learning digital marketing as I was doing sales for their brands. We were trying to land products into retail stores, and I started learning web design and other aspects of marketing to help service those clients in addition to the sales that we were helping them with. And really at that point, that's when I discovered my passion for marketing, because I was able to build websites and able to build campaigns that I could truly see impacted people.
Okay, awesome. And then after that, what sort of led you into SEO, and getting a position at the current company that you're the president of now?
Yeah, so I really built my portfolio in web design and marketing. So I was running campaigns for a number of clients. And after around 3 years, I came across my current business partner, Mike Mann. He's a domainer and has 300,000 domains. And essentially, I connected with him on Facebook, and we started chatting about marketing and domains. And really from there, he ended up needing some marketing help. I started working on several campaigns for him, and it snowballed. What I like to say is was in the right place at the right time, and I was able to apply myself. So I saw opportunities that I could contribute to and add value to, and I just gave my all in adding value.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And what were you working on at the beginning stages of working with him?
Yeah, so in the beginning stages, I had taken on some of his personal projects. He has written a book, he has a website on marketing strategy. So I started working on those kind of ancillary sites of his. We started looking at what domains we could build out into actual businesses. And then I decided to take a look at what he already has existing, Domain Market, the marketplace of domains, which I was VP of marketing for it was maybe 6 to 8 months, as well as then SEO.com. So SEO.com was in need of restructuring, and I identified several key areas that we could improve, from the strategy on the account to the processes in sales and account management and etc. And I really just started, to give advice, feedback, direction, and then I started to restructure the company for him.
Okay, awesome. Wow. Yeah, and just hearing the brief little beginning about your journey through marketing, and the one thing I do want to mention, which I really like, is that like you said, you don't have a degree in marketing, right? Like you just learned this on the go, on the job, right? And then you were able to just get better and better at it, which I think a lot of people are gonna like, right? Is because this podcast sort of is tailored to the people that are 23 to 27, that are listening and probably wanting to figure out their life, their first transition, and they got out of university, they got this degree, and then they're thinking like, what can I do with this, right? And sometimes all it takes is just that first internship at a company to really sort of spark things for you. So when you joined SEO, how many people were in the company at the time?
We had about 15 or so team members, and we still currently have about 15.
Oh, okay. So you guys are a relatively like sort of like smaller company, right?
Yeah, we're more of a boutique agency. I know
Oh,
our
okay.
name is really big, and we were really big at one point, and we plan to scale back up to being, over 100 employees. But at the moment, we're still kind of more in a boutique mode.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, the thing about that, there's probably better job prospects like within the company, right? Because there's more like movement you can do, right? Because there's not as many people. It's not like a huge company where there's a lot of bureaucracy or
Right,
anything
it's
like
not
that.
stagnant.
Yeah. So I mean, as long as like you work hard, it's like sort of at that point it sort of becomes your baby as well, right? It's sort of because like
Yeah.
you can add so much value and move around so much, right?
Mhm.
So now talking about that, like what was the process to becoming president of the company? Like how did you go through that, and what age were you when you became president?
So I don't love talking about age. I like age to be more of a mystery for me. But I would say, and it was a very unorthodox path. I mean, really, our founder is an unorthodox kind of individual. And really, I went from being a consultant to the president because other members of the team had stepped down. So, and I was right in the middle of it, knowing how to connect accounting and marketing and sales and fulfillment. And I had a grasp on all areas of the business and was able to kind of help tie everything together. So it just naturally happened.
Ah, okay, awesome. And as you were consulting, where did you sort of learn all that type of information and knowledge and experience, right, of how to run a company and how to run a marketing company, right? Like I saw that you were a founder of a company and stuff like previously. So did you learn it there, like as like a startup, or were you working at another business where you learned a lot about how to run a company?
Yeah, so when I say that I freelanced for around 3 years, I usually don't like to say the word freelanced because a lot of freelancers tend to just consider it freelancing and then they end up staying as a freelancer for a long time. I treated my clients as though they were clients of an agency, and I worked for 3 years on defining explicit processes from beginning to end when a client signs on till after, so that they were taken care of, so that everything went the way it should, and as if it was a business instead of just freelance clients, if that makes sense. So really, when I was consulting with the founder of SEO.com, we looked at, okay, what's happening in sales, what's happening with the fulfillment and account management, and how are all of these pieces going together and making a good experience for the clients, the team members, and well, just everyone. We want it all to be a win-win. So really, by treating my own kind of role or business as a business and focusing on the processes that the clients went through instead of just providing service, I think that's what set me apart and helped me turn that experience over into something kind of more actionable and, I guess, an admin role.
Okay. And now sort of transitioning to sort of, giving to advice and stuff about how to get into the marketing industry and stuff. And actually, sorry, but before I actually jump into that, I want to cover a little bit more with SEO. So what would you say is, like, as a boutique marketing firm, what do you guys sort of specialize in the most with the company, and what type of sectors do you like? What type of sectors are your clientele from?
Yeah, so we are industry agnostic as far as our clients, because we have the benefit of being around since 2007, and several of our team members have been on board since around that time. Really, we're able to service anyone in any industry. We primarily work with business to business service providers, although if I look at our current client list, I mean, we have some in agriculture, some in manufacturing, some in e-commerce, like retail e-commerce, and it really varies. So just because of our experience and our history, we're able to service anyone. But yeah, and we specialize in SEO. So while we do offer a full range of digital marketing services, because we're SEO.com, we kind of lead with SEO. And yeah, I guess usually that might not make sense for some agencies, but we feel SEO should be kind of a starting place or a foundational element of marketing. If it's done correctly and you're not just focusing on backlinks, for example. We like to, in our SEO, focus on making a site operate as well as possible, which you obviously want when you're doing, say, email marketing, social, etc.
Okay. And to be honest, like I haven't looked that much into SEO that much. So and there's probably a lot of people out there that don't really know that much about SEO. So explaining that point, like what is SEO and why is it important for businesses to sort of focus time and resources on this?
Absolutely. So SEO stands for search engine optimization, and really SEO it's essentially the practice of making your website easier to read and better to read than your competitors for certain search terms on search engines. So say, Max, if someone's searching for a business podcast and you optimize your site for the term business podcast, I'm searching up business podcast online, your site's optimized and it's optimized better than your competitors. You'll rank higher, and ultimately I will click on your site before I click on theirs. And so it's kind of like you're fighting a battle on Google.
Okay. Yeah. That's very interesting. And to be honest, like people that are probably listening, if they're starting a company, right, and the first thing a lot of people do is build a website, it's so important then to have good SEO. So jumping into that in more detail, like how can somebody that's, let's say, a startup that maybe doesn't have a large budget of marketing dollars to throw into SEO or anything like that, or creating like a $20,000 or $30,000 website that's like perfect with everything, what can some startups do to sort of bootstrap it and increase their SEO for their website?
Yeah, so there's a number of things you can do. It, of course, depends on the industry because there are slightly different tactics for each industry, but you want to make sure that you have a lot of well-written, optimized content on your site. So there's so many resources out there. So if you're bootstrapping, I would recommend either you or someone on your team read about how to write well-optimized content and do a little bit of, there's some preliminary keyword research tools that you can use to at least steer you in the right direction of search terms. And then make sure you have enough content on your site, make sure it loads quickly, and start a blog. Blogging is like the lowest hanging fruit for SEO. So I really recommend writing articles of, a good length. You don't want to write articles in like 200 words, like a paragraph long. So I would recommend reading up on content writing and a little bit of preliminary keyword research.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then once you sort of, I guess you get to the stage where you're starting to make some dollars from your business, and you want to put it back into, let's say your website, or pay for click advertising, all that type of stuff. So sort of, I know it's a very general, broad question, and people that are listening might be from a lot of different industries. So what would your advice be on that part? Like once they get like, let's say, hey, I've got $1,000 or $2,000 to invest into, my website, or, the SEO optimization, all that type of stuff. What would your advice be on that sort of side of it once you have that money?
Yeah, so it's a difficult question to answer because with SEO, it takes quite a while to see results. I mean, if you start implementing things in month 1 or month 2 of a campaign, maybe around month 4 or so, Google will start recognizing the changes that you've made. Then in like month 4 to 6, you'll start to see more improvements, or at least that's kind of how our campaigns run. So with SEO, you need to have time, and you need to put a lot of consistent effort into it. So it's not something that you can do once and forget about and see results from it. You need to put a lot of effort into it, do it over a long period of time. And then even once you start to achieve results, you need to continue to maintain them. And usually that takes about the same amount of effort, because your competitors should be growing as well at the same time. So you want to keep on top of things. Pay-per-click is a very quick way to get results at the top of the search engine without putting in any of that effort. So usually we'll recommend running a PPC campaign while you're running an SEO campaign, so that you can get those immediate results or more immediate results in terms of sales, while you're building up the SEO, which should eventually kind of take place of the PPC campaign. The only thing you want to consider with ads is that with PPC campaigns, you get about 15% of the traffic from any given monthly search volume that you see. So you're not going to get, tons of, like, you won't get as much traffic as if you were ranking number 1 organically for search, because not many people click on ads compared to organic search results. And if anyone else is like me, I like ad blockers because
Yeah.
I don't love ads. So then some people may not even be looking at the PPC section at all.
Oh yeah, true. So with that, talking about SEO a little bit more, what are some myths that people think about when they're thinking about SEO and stuff? Is there any myths that people have about SEO that you want to
Yes.
take away?
Yeah. There are so many myths with SEO. It's just unbelievable. I've already kind of touched on one, in that like SEO isn't just something that you can do once and forget about. It takes a lot of effort. So we do frequently encounter people who are under the impression that they can just do SEO once and not do it again. And that's kind of a bad rule of thumb for anything marketing.
Yeah.
Even with web design, while you will do web design, once, you should be doing it, you should be like improving on your design and maybe even rolling out a substantial update pretty regularly so that you're able to keep with the times. So really, no one should look at marketing as a one-time thing, especially SEO. A big myth, which it might be a bit more complicated to break through, is about backlinking. So to explain what backlinking is, just in case people aren't totally positive what it is, it's basically other links or other sites on the website and the internet will link to your website. And if that website is good in Google's eyes, it increases a sort of trust score for your site with Google called domain authority. So backlinking is a kind of key SEO strategy for improving your trust with Google. It's just one of many scores that or factors that Google looks at to determine your ranking online, but there's two kind of myths that come along with it. So a lot of people look at SEO as just backlinking, and there's a lot more to SEO than backlinking. It's, again, there's over 200 factors that contribute to your website ranking on Google. And while backlinking is one of them, it's not the end all be all. You have to do a lot more than just that. So the second myth is that you need a lot of backlinks, like you should order and buy and purchase in bulk thousands of backlinks or tens of thousands or millions. I mean, obviously the scale depends on the scale of your site, but that's not the case. You want high quality links over the quantity of links instead, because in every single audit that we perform on our potential clients' websites, we find examples of competitors who are just purchasing tons of links and their domain authority is lower than someone with less links of a higher quality. So we suggest anyone who is interested in backlinking to really consider the quality of the site that they're gaining links from. And that might have been pretty abstract. So you can ask me questions about it if you want.
Yeah, no, I'm really interested in it, because to be honest, like I haven't looked into, like I know a bit about SEO, and there's probably people that are like probably in the same boat as me, you know, and that type of stuff. It's pretty much like you said, it's like the war on Google to have your site ranked at the top. So when people open, like they look for, let's say my podcast or something like business podcast, mine's the first that comes up and it's the first click, right? So so talking about the backlinking, is that when, like, let's say you let's say if somebody's looking up about a podcast, right? And they read a blog on one site that gets a lot of hits, and then your podcast is, like, let's say linked into that or something, or that blog talks about your podcast, and then from there that person then clicks and jumps onto your website. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And so people don't necessarily have to be going through, like flowing through the backlink for it to count. It just has to be crawlable. So it may be that I don't know, if maybe it's a big reach for you to be on Forbes, where there's a lot of people viewing it and a lot of people clicking and exploring the links in articles. Maybe you're on a smaller website that still has a pretty good domain authority and it's talking about podcasts. Ideally, you do want people to click on your site and go through to your site from that article. But if they don't, and it's just a good source of backlinking, I mean, it's the same thing. You're getting a backlink being featured on someone's site, regardless of if traffic is coming through that link or not.
Okay. So what you meant by crawling is like when somebody's just going through a site and just having a look, and even though your link's there, even if they don't click on it, just having your link on, it's still a backlink, and then Google takes that into consideration when they're ranking your podcast. Okay.
Because what happens is Google has robots. They have these little crawlers that go across the web, and say it finds that blog that features your site, and even if people aren't clicking on the link, that robot's still going to go through the link and see your site, and then it will recognize that, well, your site is being linked to from another.
Okay, okay. And what else can you talk about on this on like, you know, the SEO subject? Is there any other myths that you know, like, because to be honest, like it's sort of like it's on my part, it's a little bit of ignorance because I don't know that much about the myths of SEO, right? And there's probably people that are probably in the same boat with like not knowing, like just not knowing of not knowing, right? Like they didn't know
Yeah,
this even existed or what to even like in that
yeah.
instance to Google it to figure it out, right? Um,
Definitely.
so,
So I think something that I kind of touched on is like you need to do keyword research to create content on your site. So keyword research kind of has some myths around it too. It's like some people will immediately think, okay, I should look for the keyword with the highest amount of search volume, right? So if I'm selling dog food, I should rank for dog food. But or the term dog or like dogs, right? That's so broad that if, say, you try to rank your site for the term dogs when you're selling dog food, people will go to the term dog. Even if you rank number one, they're probably not going to buy dog food because there's no search intent behind the term dog, if that makes sense. So
okay.
someone looking for dog is maybe they just want to learn about dogs. Maybe they want to know what different breeds there are, you know, how to get one, etc. So you have to think from a user's perspective on a search engine when coming up with keywords and when researching keywords. So you'll want to think, say, okay, maybe my dog food is like raw, organic, whatever.
Yeah.
I'd want to include those terms like raw, organic dog food. And then that way, if someone searches that, I know that they're in the market for purchasing that specific type of dog food, and that's what I offer. So, I mean, for another example, it could be with the Max Spence Business Podcast, you might want to look up like, yes, business podcast is good and it's very relevant. So you want to make sure that if someone's searching up business podcast, would they be interested in the content that I'm serving on my podcast? Maybe it is, but maybe you want to go deeper and look at like business podcast for new marketers or something like that, because then if there's search volume around that, even though it's very specific, people might be even more happy with what they're looking for and they'll stay on your site longer, and that will kind of be a positive thing for both you and the user and Google to see.
Ah, okay, okay. So yeah, that's sort of like very similar, and probably it's like the very similar and pretty much the same thing as like, let's say posting a YouTube video, right? With like your
Yeah,
thumbnail and right, and like making sure that you have
yeah,
the right thumbnail, but also the right titling for it, right? So you
yeah.
get in front of the right people at the right time. Whereas like
Mhm.
if you just have dogs, people might be like, well, I'm not looking for dog foods. I'm looking for a golden retriever breed. I want to buy a dog, not,
Yes.
you know, buy dog food right now. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And YouTube is actually, if you look at some people might look at YouTube being a social platform or something like that, but YouTube is actually the second largest search engine after Google. So a lot of people are using YouTube actually just like a search engine. It has its own algorithm. It's a little bit different than Google, obviously, because it's got videos to read. So it is different, but it is still a search engine.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, to sort of transition now into sort of the email marketing side of things. So how is your company approaching that for your clients, and like what can you do to sort of make yourself stand out with email marketing, right?
Yeah, so email marketing is super important because there's almost no other way to appear, at least for brands, to appear alongside messages from someone's family, friends, close kind of contacts than email marketing. So with email marketing, you're able to directly jump into someone's mailbox where they're already very comfortable in their mailbox. They talk to family, friends, other brands in there. So with email marketing, you're able to get kind of that direct line of communication where you probably won't on other platforms. So the benefit of email marketing compared to, say, social media, yes, well, with social media, you are reminding people to, like, you're keeping your brand top of mind. With email marketing, it usually includes like a call to action to return to the site. And again, it's kind of a more personal, direct line of communicating with them. And you'll also want to like craft your messaging to speak to your user as if you're speaking with them like a friend or a family member. And then it becomes more personal, engaging, and well, more successful.
Yeah, 100%. And that's one thing I've noticed, because like with my email, right? Like I get hit with so many different email marketing and all that type of stuff. Is there anything that you can do that's like sort of like I know you covered that, like really personalizing the message to that person and making it really relevant. Is there anything that you shouldn't really do when you're doing your email marketing or anything like that, that are like some red flag type stuff that you should avoid?
Yeah, like don't use millions of exclamation points or use spammy words, because you'll be flagged by ISPs. And also make sure that you're delivering value and that the message is really relevant. I think really what's most key is that you are providing value, so the user doesn't feel like, this is useless, just another one of those spammy looking emails, as well as yeah, I mean, it being personalized and relevant. So if it solves someone's like needs or problems in some way, then they're more likely to engage with it.
Okay, awesome. And then talking about that is like, because I get some emails and it's like, it's either really long or some of them are shorter, or some of them actually have videos with them. And your experience from working with other companies, what have you seen as sort of working the best? Is it better to have shorter emails? Is it best to have longer emails? Is there a certain size, like length of reading that you should keep it to? And also, are videos good or are they not that good? Like what have you sort of seen in your experience?
It thoroughly depends on the audience. So, well, with videos, you can't really embed a video, but you can put like a picture or a screenshot of a video and a link to it. And that's good if your main call to action is to say, watch my video, like with your podcast. But for emails overall, it depends on your audience's preferences. So someone who's extremely busy, like say the owner of a company, may not want to read an email like that's super, super long. But it depends on, say, if it's like educational. There was one email marketer that I followed who would send an email per day, and his emails were like mini storybooks. They were so long, but they're actually not annoying because the message, again, resonates really well with the audience. So it depends on if it's kind of serving value to the audience or not. So,
Okay.
and you can still, there are, say, bargain shoppers, for instance, may really appreciate the short emails with coupons, but you don't want to be so sales focused all the time. With email marketing, you generally want something more like a 50-50 split between really valuable emails and then more kind of sales or marketing focused mail.
Like what type of advice would you have for somebody that's looking to get into marketing, and to stand out during their resume? Like how like actually to think back, like how did you sort of stand out? I know you started actually as a consultant and then got that position. But yeah, how did you sort of stand out from, like, let's say when you were pitching, the founder of the company and stuff to get that consulting job?
So I stood out with my experience, and what I'll say from hiring, as I've been hiring over the past few years, is I look for tangible experience on any candidate's resume. So you want to see that people can actually do things instead of they just know quite a lot. I also would say you want to be really personable. that goes a long way in the hiring process, because especially if you're in like a client-facing role, for instance, you want to be personable and you want to have really positive attributes. So today, culture is a really important part of companies, and companies are generally looking more into how to develop a good culture. So you want to make sure that, well, you would be a good fit for it. So really, you feel free to display your personality, because a lot of hirers are looking for that too.
Okay, awesome. And I've got two more questions for you, but before we'll wrap it up here. The second last question is actually, I saw in your LinkedIn profile that you were involved with the Fulcrum Venture Accelerator, and I know we were talking a little bit beforehand about you took this program and you guys are looking to raise capital for SEO.com. Can you actually talk a little bit about the accelerator, and what did you sort of learn from it, and give advice on that point?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Fulcrum Venture Accelerator program was one of the most fascinating things I feel I've done over the past few years, because you get to work directly with Will Sachs, the founder of the program, and he has, I believe he raised $9 million for his own company, Kindara, and he just has so much insight on the whole process from start to finish. And he gives you a blueprint basically on all of the things you have to do from start to finish to raise successfully. So I made some very long-lasting connections. I still have a regular call with one of the partners I was with during that accelerator course. And I felt, especially for CEOs or business owners, really everyone in that course is a CEO or business owner, and mostly in the startup phase. I think maybe there were a few past the startup phase, but primarily in the startup phase, it connects you with a lot of people who are going through similar issues as you to deal with on a regular basis, and it kind of connects you with a great community of people who you can rely upon for sound advice.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'm from what I'm getting from that is you would highly recommend the program to other people that are looking to raise capital for their own companies.
Yes, yeah, especially if you don't know, if you feel like you don't know where to start, that will give you kind of a giant toolbox of things you can do and a process to follow daily. So
awesome. That's great. And my last question now, it's a question I like to ask to a lot of my guests is, what is one question you wish people asked you more about marketing and SEO?
I don't know, because I feel I get asked all of the questions all the time. I mean,
or we could go more broad. Like what is one question that you wish people asked you more about? Your life and being, a president of a company and running a business.
Well, okay, I don't know if this is the right kind of answer, but the question that I like to ask people, which I think maybe it'll help some other people listening to this, especially if you're young in your marketing career, is ask people what their favorite book is, and go out and try to read that book, because the more knowledge you have, the more you can grow and expand. And I'd probably attribute a lot of my growth throughout the past 5-6 years to reading quite a lot of books. So I would say if there's anyone you look up to that you're speaking to, ask what books they're interested in listening or reading to, and go out and do it. And I actually, if that is a question that I would like asked to me, is what book I would recommend, or what book am I reading? What book I'd recommend is All Marketers Are Liars by Seth Godin. If any of you who are listening to this have not read that, it's a must read.
Okay, awesome.
Regardless of, like, if you're in marketing or if you're just focusing on business or sales, regardless of who you are or what you're doing, you should read that book, even outside of the marketing field. So
Yeah, yeah, 100%. And to be honest, I haven't heard of that book. Just to give like a little brief overview of it, what does it sort of cover, and why did you really like that book out of all the other books you've read?
Well, Seth Godin one is just like the supreme marketer. He's like my marketing inspiration. Two, he writes in a really witty way, so it's an enjoyable read. It's pretty short, and it really gives you direction on storytelling. Because essentially he's saying throughout the book that everyone, regardless of if their role in life, they are a storyteller, and it kind of encourages you to become a storyteller and a better marketer or teller.
Okay. Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah, yeah. I'll definitely check that book out. But yeah, we're coming to the end here. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've learned a lot about SEO, and I hope the listeners have learned a lot about SEO too. So where can people find out more about your personal brand, and then also your company SEO.com?
Totally. Well, with SEO.com, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can go to SEO.com. You could connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot on there, and I have kind of a personal site which I haven't really been building, but I'm working on, called thatalexandra.com, and I'll be posting at least this business podcast on there. So
Okay, awesome, awesome. Actually, to touch on that a little bit more, is there any other business podcasts or YouTube videos that you've been on that you really enjoyed and that you'd like to shout out that people could go listen to?
yeah, actually, Classroom Without Walls, by Dr. I. Addison Zhang. It's on my featured video with her is on my website, thatalexandra.com. She has interviewed a lot of people related to, I guess, their careers in well, their careers in general. Some of them are marketers, some aren't, and how they got to be where they are today. So it's really inspirational.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. And yeah, thank you to the listeners. If you made it all the way to the end, I really appreciate that. And if you can please, leave a like, leave us. Well, I mean, subscribe, sorry, and leave a review. That helps out a ton. But yeah, thank you again for coming on the show.
Yeah, Max, I appreciate your time, and I hope everything was useful to the listeners.